I don't know if the screen is good. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm Raul Jimenez. I'm from Barcelona. As I said, I'm a Google developer expert. I have a small company where I'm a total partner, Google partner, and I'm a GDE, and I have this small project called Vdeo. Anyone knows here Vdeo? Only small hands. Anybody here used Vdeo in the past in a project? No? Okay. That's fine. Let's talk about Vdeo, VR, not Vdeo. For a lot of people, you may say, okay, VR, that's, it can be scary, because it is super hard. It is super hard, You need to learn a lot of maths to understand how 3D works, because we come from the 2D world and we need to move to the 3D world, okay? And you need also to learn about shaders, materials, lights, blah blah blah, a lot of things. And I started doing this work with 3JS, and I realized that it was. Okay, it helped me, but it was still tough, I mean, this is the code for something that I wrote at that time, and when you can take a look to the slides, you will see that it is pretty tough. It is helpful, though. But now we can combine Angular 2 with an awesome framework that it's from Mozilla, that it's called IFrame. And anybody knows here this super awesome framework from Mozilla? Okay, IFrame basically wraps 3JS and WebGL in HTML custom elements for you. That means that you can, with just plain tags and attributes, create 3D scenes. So, because of that, it is very easy for us as Angular developers to get all these tag elements and attributes and start combining with Angular. So we can create properties and bind it to Angular properties, and we can create custom elements with ng-force, etc., and create super awesome scenes. Okay. And on the other side, this is this framework that I wrote this framework in Angular 1, and I'm moving it to Angular 2 now. And Angular Vdeo, basically, it's an Angular 2 component-based video framework, which means that it basically follows the same architecture and principles than IFrame. And we have plugins like controls, ads, streaming, etc. We have cue points. You will see what's a cue point later. And obviously, it's free and open source, so go out and start working with it. Okay, now we are going to see the demo, which I can show you here. Okay, so what we have here, basically, it's a 3D scene. This title that shown here, as you can see, when the timer arrives there. Okay, this is a cue point. You will see, I want to explain a little bit all the things that you can see here. As I said, you can see here the cue points when the cue point enters and the cue point goes out, then the title disappears. And we can see here also these weird things. This is something that they call doors, okay? And you can just put it there. Then you can see, when you look at these doors, you can see that this is me. I go hiking for a lot of hours to do this demo. So I go to Sprinkles the next year. So please, just, I want a huge clap for this thing because it was awful, okay? And this thing, well, when you put inside the door, you can see that this circle is growing, and then you can move to a new scene. So you can create these scenes where you can move from one place to another place. Okay, and so we have these coupons with the titles, we have the doors, and we have also some interactive areas where we can, for example, if you look to the lake, you will see the name of the lake with a 3D text put over the video, okay? And all of this, by the way, is recorded with this camera. It's pretty cheap. The quality is not the best because it only has 2 cameras, but it is quite cheap. It costs me like 300 and so on euros. So you can, it is pretty cheap to start playing with this thing, okay? And well, as you can see, you can navigate through through all the scenes and look around and see a dog here, hello dog. And then you can go to the last scene, see this awesome cascade. This is in Catalonia, beautiful place. And at the end, you can just arrive to the end and see the other lake. And here's me resting with my sandwich. Okay, and that's the end of the demo. And so now that you have seen this demo, you say, okay, this is cool. Just show me the code. Okay. So first thing, we need to bootstrap our NG2 application. And because we are using custom elements, you will see how these custom elements are written in IFrame. We need to add the custom elements schema. Okay, if you don't add this custom elements schema, then Angular 2 is going to throw you an error saying that this tag is not recognized by Angular. It is not an Angular 2 component. So you need to add this custom elements schema to use any web component. Okay? And obviously, you need to add the Vdeo core and Vdeo controls module. And then now we can start creating our component. To create our component, you just need to create a regular component. And this is how the magic of IFrame starts, okay? So with the scene, you are creating the IFrame scene. And you can say here, for example, that I want this mode UI, which is actually that small button that you saw on the demo. This guy here. Okay, that this is when you are on the mobile phone, you can click there, and then the view splits, and you have two views, and that's when you get your glasses and put the mobile phone there, and you can see on 3D. Okay, and you need to set up the assets for this video, and then you set up the video sphere and the camera. And the color, this cursor camera is this cursor over here, okay? And with this, you can just start your IFrame scene. As you can see, we can put these bindings to our video. So this is pretty useful because you will see later that we can bind the videos and create NG4s and so on. So now we can create the doors, and basically the doors are images. These images, as you remember, the doors were those circles that growing up when I just moved over. And we can put the mouse center, mouse leaf. So again, we can plug in Angular 2 with these IFrame components perfectly. And it's pretty awesome because it is so easy to create and it is very declarative instead of all the code that I wrote in November or October, I don't remember when. And it was so painful. And again, we can just put an NG4 here. And we have also our image that it's basically a source and an asset, and we define our source asset here. Now, as we have been defined here, these mouse event listeners, we can just create our event listeners on our class, on our component, and with a little bit of React, RxJS, sorry, not React. Oh. Then we can just bind our current video variable, which is binded to our video source, and change the videos from this videos array that basically it's using an iVideo interface that has the ID, URL, and the doors. So when we when we move from one video to a new video, basically what we are doing is just setting a new object of this structure, okay, this type of video. For the animations, you have seen that these animations, when I just roll over or look to these circles, to these doors, these circles are growing up, okay? And to create the animations, you can use the animations that IFrame has, but in this example, I used a library for IFrame that is called IFrame Animation Component, which ironically, it's written by Engo Kevin, which is one of the guys on IFrame. So this guy on Mozilla, it seems that it's creating libraries that are kind of competition to the IFrame framework. And the thing is that I like this one more because it was pretty declarative too. And I have this, I can say my start events and my post events, and these strings here are basically the custom event that needs to be dispatched, and this image is when it receives the event is going to trigger this animation. As you can see, it's a little bit verbose because we need to put in there the fade in, the scale, the visibility, and it's quite verbose animation. But I think that it's still not bad, okay? I think that the IFrame animations are going to be changed in the future. Right now, IFrame is it's pretty new. It's a pretty new framework, and I think that they are going to change several things, but it's still too cool to play with it. So, as I said, you just need to, when you do the on mouse enter, you just need to dispatch the custom event and trigger your animation. Or when you leave, you can start another animation, post animation. Okay. And you can also, by the way, bind your animations. So you can just put here the visibility and position animation and bind it to an object that you have on your Angular 2 property. And now we are going to talk about synchronizing content, which is done with the Q-point systems on Vdeo. And for this, you can use VT2 tracks. VT2 tracks, for those that you know, it's an HTML standard to create tracks with metadata. It's super, super, super interesting HTML5 standard. And it is very similar to subtitles files, to RST files, but it allows you to add JSON. So you can just create JSON files that are synchronized with video. It is super cool. For example, in this example, we can just, on our video, we've been added this track, and it's binded to current video track, which is a new property that I've created in my object. And with Vdeo, we can just add this directive, and this directive is going to track all the events dispatched by this element, and it's going to send to dispatch Angular to observables events. So you have this on enter Q point and on exit Q point, and additionally, you can just add this. You can export this metadata track and bind it to a component from Vdeo that it is called scriptbar Q points, and you can just bind it to here to display. Oops, not here. Sorry, to display these yellow lines over here in the scriptbar on the bottom of the video. Okay, and the events when the event is thrown from this track. For example, in this case, we are seeing here that we have this title and this JSON. And we've created here this class title of this QPointData.title. This is binded when you get the unentered QPoint, you need to parse the JSON because you are getting the JSON as a string. And then you can just say, OK, $event.text, which is the text of the JSON file. Just parse that. And this QPoint.data is going to have an object that has a property title that you can bind to the class title. It is really easy. If you notice, I mean, it is clearly really easy to do this, that is very declarative, instead of the thousands of or hundreds of lines of code to do exactly the same, or even less, because this example is way more complex than what I've done several months later in the past. So in summary, we have that IFrame is going to help you a lot. I mean, I highly recommend you. By the way, IFrame, it's not only for videos. You can create complex 3D scenes. You can, it has automatic integrations for you for VR glasses like HTC Vive, for example. And it has also integrations for these maracas. I don't know how the controllers, the 3D controllers on the space. Okay, it has a lot of libraries that will help you to do that things. And as you can see, and have you seen, Angular and IFrame combines really, really well. It is really easy to bind properties, so you can do a lot of stuff really easy in 3D. And you don't need to spend a lot of time working with 3JS. So I recommend you to use IFrame. And in case that you need video for any reason, you can use Vdeo if you want to have these components or these events for the tracks or synchronizing or whatever you need. And last but not least, animations might be tricky. I really thought a lot with the animations. I mean, it was kind of hard to make it work with Angular binds and so on. I've tried 3 different libraries for animations. I hope that this is going to change, or maybe there is some bugs that are not fixed yet. So I recommend you to use this library that I told you here, this IFrame animation component by Engo Kevin. It's pretty good. And here you have some links. My slides, the repo, IFrame, Vdeo. We are working on Vdeo 2, pretty close to release the first version. And I think that if you enjoyed this talk, if you saw that this probably is not helpful for your business, but I'm pretty sure that it's fun. I mean, I got some sprinkles, okay, but anyway, the time doing this demo was pretty fun. And I recommend you to start today, make awesome things, okay, and have fun. Thank you all.